So, folks, welcome to our first lunchtime virtual event at the Belfast Atlassian community events. I'm excited to welcome Stephen Allcock, who's going to give us um, insight into um, how Jira Service Management can truly work for all. So I'll not say too much more on that. Stephen is the technical service and operations lead at esure, so over 18 years of experience in this space. Um, and he's very passionate about understanding the why behind how teams work. So, as a brief introduction to Stephen from me, Stephen, please feel free to build on that and take it away.
Hi, yeah, my name is Stephen Allcock. As Shane said, work at esure as a technical lead. So I've been working with JSM as a product for probably about 10 or 11 years. I remember it from being Jira Service Desk and seeing how it's kind of evolved as a product. Used it, this is the second organization that I've used it at, where at esure, what we've managed to do is increase our return on investment by using it in multiple business functions. And that's kind of what I want to take you through today and how we've kind of been able to make other teams move faster outside of IT. So I've got a presentation I'll take you through. So I'll share my screen now and I'll talk you through what we've got. Okay. Yeah, welcome. As I said there, this is a story of how we've taken Jira Service Management beyond being a traditional IT service management tool, and we've made it more available outside of IT. So for me, the focus when we were implementing JSM was how could you make this work better for more than just IT, and just making that a simpler, cleaner colleague experience, improving transparency, and giving those business functions autonomy over how they deliver their services. As I said at the beginning, getting a greater return on the investment on the tool of it not just being an IT tool. So this is where our journey began. It started with the service desk, a traditional service desk model. And most of you will recognize this. You send an email, you hope it reaches the right person, may sit in a triage queue, may wait to be triaged, directed to the right team, and you are just lost and waiting for a reply or a resolution. This creates lots of familiar problems, multiple email chains, repeated follow-ups and emails, chases, calls, multiple handoffs between teams, approvals getting lost, and little, if any, visibility for the colleague on who raised the request. Then you've got the biggest challenges within the team, which is ownership. When the work lives in a mailbox, it's really difficult to see who owns it, where it's up to, what work's been done, how long it's been waiting, or if it's meeting any kind of service level agreement. For us, we were finding then that requests and were taking days or even weeks, and it was really hard to improve something that we couldn't properly measure. And this is where we brought JSM into the mix. And this really transformed our service desk team into what we now call a tech ops team. So with the tech ops team, that became a new way of working. And what we were giving the colleagues that were working in the tech ops team was the power of autonomy to change the way that you work. So we needed to move away from this log and flog model into working smarter and not harder. So some organizations that may use other ITSM tools they can feel like a large ship, and they're often designed by IT teams. They're heavily focused and weighted towards ITIL processes, and they have a controlled, centralized way of working. And that works really well for IT use cases, but it can become difficult and slow when other business functions want to use that ITSM tool in a slightly different way to manage their services. And they end up having to adapt their processes to the tool rather than the other way around. And teams can end up waiting a long time for centralized functions to build custom fields, workflows, forms, queues, reports. And this can be slow and difficult to get priority, especially if it's deemed low value, as you may need to prove a business value as to why something needs to change rather than it just needs to change because you need to make your process a little bit better. And it kind of creates what we found was a one-size-fits-all experience. And this was where we changed it with JSM. It allowed us to create these smaller independent spaces I like to call them JSM speedboats. And what this means is that each team can have their own workflows, the request types, forms, fields, and a way of working alongside with the autonomy to update the space how they want to, without them impacting anybody else. Don't panic though, we didn't give everybody super admin access. What we did do was upskill trusted champions within those business functions so they could manage and improve their own space. And that helped them start small, evolve at their own pace, and not kind of fit around the tool. As a tech ops team, we learned the capabilities of JSM, and they built their space into a powerhouse that enables them to work smarter and not harder. They were no longer the team that were just logging, flogging, and directing incidents and requests. They were now driving their own direction. They were improving the service based on the feedback and improvements they identified in the processes, working a lot with automation, creating forms that were fit for purpose, workflows that work for them, incidents and requests that automatically directed to the right team at the point of submission, and request types that made sense and captured the right level of information first time, along with a robust approval process that will get any auditor excited. The greatest success of this team, though, was that they managed to then reduce calls and deliver eye-watering improvements to the SLAs, which I'll go into shortly, taking it from weeks and days to hours to fulfill issues and requests. This caused us a problem now. Other teams started to see this and started to knock at the door to say, how can we use JSM? This is where we are today. We now have a single front door into multiple business functions. So this includes technology, HR, procurement, facilities, data protection, and learning and development. Each of these spaces, they run independently. So each team can manage its own portal, its own processes, and adapt to the way that they want to without impacting any other business function. For the colleagues, this makes a much simpler experience. It's one place to go, one place to raise requests, one place to track progress. And we've also started to add Rovo into the experience. So this will help to surface self-service knowledge and making it easier to find the right support across all the JSM portals. One of the big improvements here for the colleague is transparency. Colleagues no longer have to send this email and hope that somebody picks it up. They can see the request, they can track the status, they can understand what's happening next with it. And that could be a HR query, an IT issue, a facilities request, a procurement request, or something else entirely. The main point here is that everything is visible in one place. When you do that, that starts to build trust, it reduces follow-up messages, and it gives teams much better data for them to be able to manage the demand, performance, and service quality of their area. As I said previously, requests were slow, unclear, and often chased a lot. We were handling probably around 1,200 calls a month. And a lot of these would be simply for updates or chases to previous requests that they weren't sure where they were up to. By introducing this single front door, the clear ownership and the automation, we've managed to reduce our average resolution times to under 4 hours for service requests and under 2 hours on average for incidents processed by our tech ops teams. We've also included additional automation, so some of our access requests we don't even touch at all. They automatically update in AD and they can take under a minute to complete. As a result of this, calls are now under 150 calls a month, and we're still to push in that to try and get that even lower, which is an 88% reduction. And this really shows the power of the platform and shows that showing the increasing trust as the incidents requests are now getting closed quicker. There's no need for people to chase anymore. So this is what JSM for all looks like for us today. We started with one portal in technology. We now have 6 additional business areas live, with the 7th joining soon. And as esure joins the Ageas family, we have a lot more teams that are interested in coming along this journey. One of the big important changes here is mindset. Service management is no longer just an IT thing. Each team can run its own services, manage its demand, improve its own processes without waiting for the large central program to move everything forward. That's helped us move faster, give more teams ownership, and it gives a much better and consistent experience for the colleagues that are using the service. So here's a couple of takeaway points of things that we've learned along the journey. First, you need to find the right champions in each business area. You need to look for people who are curious, keen to learn, and are close enough to understand the work of what the colleagues really need. Secondly, you need to upskill those people and devolve responsibility to them. You need to trust them to do the right thing in their space and give them enough controls to be able to improve the space, but with the right guardrails around the governance and support so they can't destroy everything. Thirdly, start small. Get the basics working, prove the value, and build from there. Don't try to build the end state from the beginning. Fourth, create some great knowledge, good knowledge. It really helps reduce the avoidable requests, and this will give Rovo some really good content to be able to surface during the request creation and deflect requests. And finally, I'd say use automation where it helps. You don't need to automate for automate's sake, but routing work to the right team, managing approvals, keeping colleagues updating, and removing as much manual effort as you can so that your team can continue working on the good stuff. The why is simple with this. It's about the colleague experience. People expect an Amazon type experience in which it's easy, visible, and quick to use. A single front door, full transparency, and self-service makes it easier for the colleague to do the right thing. It also increases the return on investment in the platform as it's used across multiple business areas and no longer an IT tool, but an enterprise tool. And that brings us to the end of our journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Stephen. Already, folks, who has got any? We've got a thumbs up from Roberto, and I heard from Kevin here. Folks, who's got a question for Stephen?
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
I have a question. Yeah.
Okay.
So you mentioned about each team has its own space.
Yeah.
So what about if it's a marketing team? Can they see the tickets from HR, or is there we can maintain the security? How does that work?
Yeah, so you can have separate permission schemes within those projects. So you can amend and change those permissions. So for things like the HR portal, and we have a security portal as well that's on there. I'm the enterprise owner for it, even I can't see in those portals because we've amended those permissions. So only people within an approved area can see those. Yeah, you can do permission schemes that will restrict those down. Oh, I think you're mute there. Sorry.
Yeah. So in this case, there is a security level added. What if there is a ticket in, let's talk about marketing and HR. Suppose HR has a ticket
Mm,
which requires approval from someone. So in this case, if they add a approver person, what
yeah.
happens? Because there is a security level.
Yeah, but what you can do is you can have, if someone is an approver, then they can view that ticket and they can
Okay.
approve that ticket. And what we've done is we've added a field which is called like a request participant field as a custom field. We've then added that to the permission scheme, and anyone added to that group can view that ticket and only that ticket. And then if you remove the people from that group, they can't see the ticket. So we've changed it so only the reporter, the assignee, and any of these approvers or request participants can see those tickets.
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay.
I have a question as well.
Okay.
I was wondering at which level requires the agent license to work with HR management or the facilities management, so they can have all the people in the office, like viewer or open submit ticket, but which level they're required to work?
So to work on tickets, you need an agent license. That's anything where you're closing a request or working on a request. To log the request, you don't need a license. Those are just users that are added. But in our workflow, we've added close a request and cancel a request and made that visible to the end user. So if they want to cancel a request or close a request, they can do that. And that's then limited the amount of licensing we've needed to do. So it's only down to people who are physically working on tickets.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question, Stephen, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is there any ongoing collaboration between departmental champions to kind of improve things from shared learnings?
That's the next level where we've been trying to get a community of practice together. So at the moment we recruited earlier this year, and we now have an Atlassian administrator. That's come from internal progress within the team. So that person's has an objective this year to kind of bring that community together a bit more. We do have people who do share knowledge and information at the moment, but it's not a formal group, but that's where we want to get to, where people can then share ideas. And what we try to do is devolve as much responsibility down as we can, because otherwise it just becomes an onerous task. The only things we need to do as admins are still custom fields, some knowledge and guidance, but we try to get them trained up. We do like a 5-day course, 5-day crash intensive course with them at the beginning. This is how you create a request, this is how you do a form, this is how you update a workflow. You take them through all the basics, and all they can do is impact themselves, but most of the time you can roll it back. So I think most of the people that are interested really take it on board.
Yeah, and just a bit of feedback. I love the large ship speedboat analogy. I think that's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, you've got your hand raised.
I do. The question is, Stephen, when I saw your talk recently at one of the Atlassian Scotland events, I'd heard someone talk about, I know we were talking about service management, but someone made a great reference to it's now not service management. You've moved them towards a center of enablement. I guess for the folks on the call, can you share a bit more about that shift from service management to a center of enablement?
Yeah, I think it's just moving it away from being, like before, just about being a service, an IT tool. There's so many more business units that manage services of employees, and a lot of the ones, like when we spoke to HR at the beginning, we were going, what's your SLA for requests? And they'd be like, I don't know, I couldn't tell you. How many requests have you had for this type of thing? I don't know, I can't tell you. So a lot of people now are measuring the quality of service, which has generally been kind of an IT thing. It's not really something that HR or procurement, and we use it for things like our DPI requests, which you are governed on by law. They have to be done within 30 days. We're able to build a process within JSM to manage that SLA. So I think service levels are starting to become more prevalent everywhere. So this isn't just an IT thing anymore. This is a finance thing. People want to get I don't know if people have to raise PO requests in organizations, but these can sometimes go into a bit of a black hole and take a long time, where now we can kind of measure the performance of those POs. At the end of the day, people who are internal are customers. They're our customers. And I think that's sometimes how you have to look. Everyone has to look at them and go, colleagues are our customers too, rather than they're just people we work with.
That's great. Love it. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll maybe take the last question before we wrap up, if that's okay with everybody else. So Stephen, you said you've started to introduce Rovo. what are some of like you talked about also like not just straight away building the big ship or like the boats, like not putting everything on there, getting the foundations right. Um, what are some of the things that you're seeing as being the key foundational aspects when you start to introduce AI into this space now?
Yeah, we've started to delve into the AI part of it and the Rovo bit, which is next level stuff. The number of ideas that we're coming up with and the potentials of using it. Some of the one of the ones that we've built at the moment, I think it's building individual bots for different things rather than one bot that does lots of things. So we're starting to build little ones. We've done like an incident trend bot, and what that does is over periods of time looks at, so we'll run this 4 times a day. So there'll be an 8 o'clock briefing which will look at the last 24 hours, pull all the incidents out, look at them, categorize them, and then it looks at any changes for the last 48 hours and tries to stitch them together and to try and go, that change caused that incident. And it gives us our 3 next steps that we should do. And we get that published in service management 4 times a day. That's one of the things we're doing. We're also starting to use AI for PIR generation. So what we're doing is taking probably each of our individual tasks and seeing how we can use AI for that. So our PIRs, anyone who's wrote them before, can take hours to pull together all the information of who said what, when, where, how. We're now pulling all that into our JSM ticket, all the notes, all the comments, and we're now turning out PIRs within minutes in a format that we've selected, we've chose. And I've been able to present these to most people, and they actually didn't realize they've been written by AI. We do have to spell check them, and we do have to read them. So while she's saving time, you still need to read them. But we're using it for our PIR creation, which is good. And we've just actually started one on change now, which reads the content of the change. And based on the quality of the information that's in there, just either tells us to either reject it or send it back with some comments as to why. So Rovo's really starting to play into this now of those requests, and actually in some of our incidents as well, when they initially get logged, they're actually going into a Rovo agent now and suggesting some feedback to the end user before it actually hits the team. So we're starting to do stuff like that. I think Rovo, we're starting to dabble in that in a slow way, but that is really going to change next level. We were using automation quite heavily when we first did this, which was, automating requests to the right teams, using forms in a smart way to kind of pick out right approval groups. Rovo just absolutely accelerates that in a way we're only really touching the surface at the moment. And that's potentially something I could probably talk about in another time. It does lead on to that because some of the stuff we are doing in that space, I think is different, but there's so much you can go out with it. I think we're breaking the individual tasks down of how we use it.
Perfect. So on that note, I've got a few things to mention. I'll definitely have to follow up with you to invite you back later to talk about your adventures with Rovo. Also wanted to thanks Stephen for joining this. And it's been an excellent talk in terms of like your journey and insights that you've been able to share with the community. And to everybody that's joined today remotely, I want to say thanks as well. This is our first time running with this type of event. And I've got one ask from everybody who has joined is this format something that you'd like to keep seeing from the Belfast community? Is the timing suitable, or would a different time be better? And we will be running these both in person and virtually over the next 6 months. So once we do the in-person ones, we'll still have the virtual ones coming as well. So please let us know either on LinkedIn in the comments what you'd like to see more of, less of, or just feel free to reach out to myself personally. Alrighty, folks. Thanks again, Stephen. I hope you have a great day.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.